What's up guys, welcome to episode 7 of the Basics series. Today we're going to learn how to make pasta from scratch. Let's get into it. Alright, to a medium-sized bowl we're going to add 500 grams of semolina flour. We're going to make a little well in the middle of the flour. To that well we're going to pour 235 grams of lukewarm water and slowly incorporate it with a fork. Now that the dough has come together, we're going to use our hands to continue mixing the dough. Then we're going to turn out the dough onto a lightly floured work surface. Also remember, we're using semolina flour and not all-purpose. I know it looks really crumbly right now, but as we continue kneading the dough, it will come together. When I go to knead the dough, I'll pull all the dough back, and then using the palm of my hand, I'm pushing down and forward on the dough. We're going to repeat this process over and over until the dough comes together. In order to seal the seams on the bottom, make a V with your hands and slide them under the dough, pinching the seams shut as you go. After a few turns, the dough should be sealed on the bottom. The finished dough should have a slight spring to it when you press into it with your finger, and there should be no visible cracks or crumbs. Now we're going to tightly wrap the dough in plastic wrap and label it. I like to write the name and the date, and then we're going to let it rest in the fridge overnight, or at least for 4 hours. Alright, it's the next day and the dough has had some time to rest. We're going to unwrap the dough and get started shaping the pasta. To start, we're going to lightly dust a work surface with some semolina, and then we're going to split the dough into 4 equal sections. Take one of the dough sections and cover the remaining pieces with a damp towel so they don't dry out. We're going to start by shaping the dough with our hands into a rough oval. Then we're going to start rolling out the dough starting from the center and moving outwards. We're aiming for a thickness like a Sharpie, which is going to take some time. Making pasta from scratch takes effort, but the end result is worth it. I like to throw on a podcast or some music while I roll out the dough, and I usually have a blast. Eventually the pasta will be too long to roll out effectively, so cut off sections to make rolling easier. This is about the size we're looking for, so I'm going to cut off a small sections to begin working with. It should be about the size of your pinky. If so, we're ready to begin shaping. First up, we're going to make Cavatelli. This shape is great for holding onto sauces. Cut the rope into 1-inch pieces using a bench scraper or knife. Then using your thumb, press down on a piece and push it in a sort of C motion, allowing it to curl up into a shell-like shape. This will take some getting used to, but you'll get the hang of it. Once again, all I'm doing is pushing down with moderate force and rolling the dough under my thumb, letting it form into a shell. If the dough sticks to your hand, gently push it off and reshape the pasta by hand. If the dough is slipping when you go to shape it, then there is too much flour on the work surface. You want some friction so that the pasta gets pulled into shape. Once shaped, let them dry on a well-floured surface for about 2 hours. Next, we're making Orecchiette, which means little ears in Italian. Roll a small piece of dough into a thin rope just like we did for the Cavatelli, and then we're going to cut that rope into 1-inch pieces. Using a bench scraper or your thumb, press into a piece and gently drag it across your work surface to form a small concave shape that looks like an ear. Unfurl the disc and gently push your thumb into the smooth side to create a small divot. Orecchiette should have a rough texture on one side, which helps to catch the sauce. Again, press down with moderate force and pull towards yourself. Unfurl and gently press to create the signature bump. Just like the Cavatelli, we're going to let them dry for at least 2 hours before cooking. Finally, let's make some linguine, a classic long pasta shape. Roll out a piece of the dough as thin as possible, about 1/16 of an inch thick. As I'm rolling out the dough, I'm going to periodically pick up the dough to ensure it doesn't stick to the bottom of the board. Also, try to roll it out as evenly as possible so that there is no random thick spots in the finished product. Gently lift the dough with the back of your hands to avoid tearing once it gets really thin. Once the dough is rolled out, we're going to sprinkle some flour on top and cut it in two. Then we're going to add more flour over the top and fold the dough over itself a few times. Each time we fold the pasta, we're going to add flour on top to ensure the pasta doesn't stick onto itself. Using a sharp knife, slice the dough into thin strips about a 1/4 inch wide. Then we're going to unfold each strip to reveal the linguine. Give the pasta a light toss of flour to keep the strands from sticking together. Then grab the ends and gently wrap the pasta around your hand to form a sort of bird's nest. Just like the other two shapes, we're going to let that dry for at least 2 hours before we get cooking. And that's how you make pasta from scratch. Today we made orecchiette, cavatelli, and linguine, but you can create any shape you want with the right tools and time. Each shape should cook in about 4 to 6 minutes in salted boiling water, or until they float. I made a quick pasta dish with some sauce I had on hand. Let's give it a try. The cavatelli holds the sauce really well, and the texture is something you can only get from homemade pasta. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.